السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. All praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the malice of our own souls and the evil of our actions. Whomsoever Allah guides based on that person's actions will never be misguided. And whomsoever Allah allows to be misguided based on that person's actions will never find guidance. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship other than Allah, alone without any partners, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His servant and messenger. My dear sisters and brothers, my name is Hazem Bata. I am with ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America. We have our annual education forum here, and that's the occasion that brings me to the wonderful state of California. I have to state that if I say anything true or beneficial today, then know that it comes from Allah. For all truth and goodness come from Him. If I say anything false or detrimental, then know that it comes from me, for I am human and I am prone to error. And also know that this khutbah is for my own benefit, and I need to follow the advice in this khutbah before anybody else does. So when I sat down to write a khutbah a few months ago, I had a flashback. I had this memory when I was a young boy. I was watching TV and I was flipping through the channels, and it was a game show. And the contestant is in a glass booth full of cash, and there's a fan at the bottom, and the fan is on, it's blowing the cash all over the booth, and there's a little hole, there's an opening in the front of the booth. And the contestant tries to grab as much cash as they possibly can and push it out through the little hole, and whatever they catch and push out, that's what they get to keep. And they have 1 minute to do so. They have 1 minute. And this memory kept coming back and back when I was trying to write this khutbah, so I said, maybe Allah is trying to tell me something. And what I realized is that this game show illustrates an important lesson for us to apply in our lives. And the lesson is not so obvious. And that is how we value time. How we value time. You might think that this game show is about money or the value of money. But you'd be wrong. It's not about money. This game show is about the value of time. Let me explain. The contestant has 1 minute to grab as much cash as they possibly can. Let's change that duration from 1 minute to 1 week. Now you have 1 week to grab as much cash as you possibly can. You're still going to try to grab all the money that you can, but you're not going to do it as frantically. You're not going to do it as urgently as when you only have 1 minute. Let's change the scenario a little bit one more time. Let's say you have 1 year. You have 1 year. You're still going to try to grab as much money as you can, but you're going to take your time a little more. Right? 1 year, you have to go to work, you have to go home, you have to eat, you have to sleep. So you're still going to try to grab as much money as you can, but not at the same pace as when you only had 1 minute. The money's the same, the value of the money doesn't change, but the duration has changed. The time has changed, and that changes everything. What does this illustrate to us? The more time we have, the less we value it. Here's the lesson. How we value time is the exact opposite of how we value everything else. How we value time is the exact opposite of how we value everything else. For everything, just about everything, the more you have of it, the more valuable it is. Right? More money is worth more than less money. Right? $1 million is worth more than $500,000. 3 bars of gold is worth more than 1 bar of gold. 10 acres of land is worth more than 5 acres of land. Having really good health is more valuable than having average health. Being really intelligent is more valuable than being of average intelligence. Right? Everything, the more you have of it, its value increases, except for time. Except for time. The less time you have, the more valuable it becomes. SubhanAllah. It's the one thing that works that way. It's the only thing that works that way. If I give you 1 day to finish a project, a big project, oh man, better hurry up. You've only got 1 day. If I give you 3 months to finish a project, okay, now you can take your time a little more, right? The time now has less value. 3 months is less valuable than 1 hour. If I give you 1 hour to finish your math test, you better hurry up. You've got 1 hour. If I give you 3 hours to finish your math, you know what? I can take my time. I can take my time now. If I give you 30 years to earn entry into Jannah, that's very different than if I give you 70 years to earn entry into Jannah. Time is a factor. Time changes everything. But here's the catch. In every situation that I've given you so far, I've told you how much time you have. Right? You have 1 minute to collect the cash. You have 1 hour to take your math test. You have 1 day to finish your project. I've told you the amount of time that you have. What happens when we don't know how much time we have? What happens when there is no deadline? There's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of urgency. I'll get around to it. Whatever it is in life, whether you're trying to do good deeds to get into Jannah, whether you're trying to finish a project, whether your wife tells you to take out the garbage, right? If your wife tells you to take out the garbage, you'll take it out within the next 3 days. If your wife says, take out the garbage now, you're going to go and take it out now, right? Time. We have the illusion of time. We have the illusion of time. When we know how much time we have, it gives us focus. It creates a sense of urgency. But when we don't know how much time we have, we tend to postpone things. Rasulullah ﷺ said, take advantage of 5 matters before 5 other matters. Your youth before you become old, your health before you fall sick, your wealth before you become poor, your free time before you become preoccupied, and your life before your death. Your life before your death, that's time. Your free time before you become preoccupied, that's time. Your youth before you become old. When you're young, you don't have as many responsibilities. You have more time to do things. 3 of those 5 things are really different ways of saying time. Your time is valuable. The Prophet ﷺ also said, there are 2 blessings which many people waste. Health and free time for doing good. Health and free time for doing good. If we're not doing good deeds with our time, I don't think we're making good use of our time. So the fear here, the message that I'm trying to convey, the fear is not just of sinning, but of wasting time. Right? There are sins that we all know that we shouldn't do. Right? I don't need to remind you, right? I mean, no one here's going to rob a bank. Right? If you're going to rob a bank, come talk to me afterwards. Right? But we know that. We know we're not supposed to rob a bank. Right? But little things like not using your time well. Right? It's not a sin that's an act. It's a sin of omission. It's not what you do, it's what you don't do. Because you've only got a limited amount of time to grab hasanat. You've only got 1 minute to grab the dollars. And then that's it. You've only got 1 lifetime to grab as many good deeds as you possibly can, and then your time is over. Allah says, Surah Al-Sharh, verse 7, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. So when you are free, strive in worship. Right? And this is a very powerful verse because there's a sense of urgency. It doesn't really come across in the translation, but in Arabic there's a strong sense of urgency. فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. Go out, do good deeds, earn paradise whenever you have a free moment. And there's also a bit of nasiha. There's Allah's giving us advice. Go out and do good deeds whenever you have free time. Now, I'm not saying that you should abandon this life and just spend all of your time in the masjid, right? You don't want to go too far. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance between this world and the demands of this world, which are many. Many of them are legitimate, and the afterlife, right? Pursuing the afterlife. I want to tell you 2 stories. So ISNA is headquartered in Indianapolis. In Indianapolis, we had a father and son, Haris and Babar Sulaiman. So they're of Pakistani origin, and they are involved with a group called Seeds of Learning. And what this organization does is it raises money to build schools back in Pakistan in underprivileged areas, in areas where they cannot afford to build their own schools. Haris and Babar are both pilots. So what they were going to do is they were going to fly around the world in 30 days to raise money for this organization. MashaAllah, they raised $500,000. Right? That's a lot of money to build schools back in Pakistan, MashaAllah. 30 days to go around. So around the 28th day, they were in around the Caribbean area. Right? Around the Caribbean, and we had a big party planned for them when they got back at the masjid. 30 days, raised $500,000 for a good cause, mashallah. Right, we're going to have all sorts of nice food and a celebration at the masjid. It was going to be really nice. But then their plane crashed. On the 28th day, they were almost home. The son, Haris, was a junior in high school. He would have been one of the youngest pilots ever to circumvent the globe, if not the youngest pilot ever. We found his body, he had passed away, and we never found the body of the father, Babar, and we assume that he has passed away. Nobody saw it coming. 2 days. They were 2 days away from home, but Allah took them. You never know when it's your time. But they were striving. They were striving. They were doing something positive with their time, something to help other people. We live in a very blessed country, the wealthiest country in the world. What are we doing to give back? They were trying to build schools back in Pakistan. I have some friends that told me a story. This is the second story. I had a few friends in college and they were telling me a story about somebody that they knew when they were in high school. I didn't know this individual. But this individual did a lot of things that he should not have done. He didn't really take life too seriously. He wasn't the most ethical of people. And then one day, he did a complete 180, right? He stopped doing all of those things that he wasn't supposed to do. He started being a better person. He started praying and so on and so forth. And this is high school. They're in high school at the time. And so he wakes up early one morning to go pray Fajr in the masjid. Great. I mean, he's in high school. How many high schoolers do that? Right? So he gets up to take a shower, and he has a heart attack. And he passes away. Allah yarhamu. In high school. I mean, that's the peak of your health, right? It's the peak of your health. Who saw that coming? You're going to have a heart attack when you're taking a shower to go pray Fajr in the masjid. But alhamdulillah, he had turned, right? He did a 180. He was on the right path. May Allah give him Jannah, inshaAllah, right? He was trying to do something positive with his time. So he strove, inshaAllah. Allah says in Surah Al-Imran, verse 185, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا حَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. This is a really important verse. Every soul shall taste death. And only on the day of judgment shall you be given all that you deserve. Only he who inches away from the fire and is admitted to the garden will have attained the purpose of life. For the life of this world is but possessions of deception. This last portion is really important. For the life of this world is but possessions of deception. Do not be deceived by this world. Do not be deceived by the bounties of this world. Again, I'm not telling you to shun this world. I'm not telling you to be a hermit. Right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a balance. Remember that Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتَ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ in Surah Al-Thariyat, verse 56. And I have not created man and jinn except to worship me. That's the purpose of life. You hear that question so many times. What's the purpose of life? Why are we here? It's to worship Allah. Very simple. Very simple. So live your life, right? Live your life. Pursue your education. Work hard. Get a good job. Take care of your family. Buy a nice house. There's nothing wrong with any of that. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Don't let anyone tell you differently. I'm not asking you to shun this world. I'm just telling you, don't forget that you have a limited amount of time to gain entry into paradise. And wallahi, on the day of judgment, you're not just going to want paradise, you're going to want the highest level of paradise. So what are we doing to balance this world and the afterlife? How do we worship Allah? As he said, وَمَا خَلَقْتَ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created man and jinn except to worship me. All those things that we know, fasting and praying and charity, and those are all good. Those are all perfectly valid ways. Those are all important things for us to do. But there are other things that we can do. Sometimes things that I feel are not given enough attention. Something that I call active citizenship. Be an active member of your community. Help those around you. help those around you. You know, Allah sends a limited amount of barakah, a limited amount of blessings to this world, right? And some people have more than others. It's up to us to redistribute some of that barakah. It's a wealthy country. There are people starving all over the world. People starving right here. What are we doing to try to compensate for the fact that we're not starving, but they are? In Syria, Ya Allah. In Burma, Ya Allah. Genocide happening in these countries. We don't have to worry about that. I mean, we complain about Donald Trump, right? They're going through much worse. They're going through much worse. What are we doing to try to redistribute some of the barakah? What are we doing to try to help? So that's something that we can do. Be an active citizen. Help those around you. Help your family, your extended family, your friends, your community, those overseas if you are able. Some have more resources than others. Help in whatever way you can. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he saw a man in the masjid. And this man was there all the time. Right? This guy was in the masjid 24/7. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked the Sahaba one time, who is this guy? And how does he make a living? I don't see him working. He's just in the masjid all day, all night. And so the Sahaba told him, the man's brother supports him. You know what Rasulullah said? He said, the brother is better than he is. The brother who's out there, who has a job, who supports his own family, his own wife and kids, and supports this man and his wife and kids, is better than the person who spends 24/7 in the masjid. Spending time in the masjid, that's for us. When we get out there and help other people, that's for other people. That's even better than helping ourselves. Being grateful. Allah says, if you are grateful, I shall certainly give you more. In Surah Ibrahim, verse 7. Just be grateful. It takes no time. It costs us nothing. It's free. Right? It's our favorite price. Just be grateful. Be grateful for everything that Allah has given you. Be patient with Allah's trials. Life is not always peaches and cream. Right? Life can be very difficult at times. That's the purpose of life. Life is a test. Be patient with Allah's trials. Right? Don't lose your faith. Don't complain too much. Don't get angry. Be patient with Allah's trials. He will reward you for it. I'm reminded one of my favorite ahadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Sayyidina Umar. He said, Ya Umar, tell me something about life. It's about time. Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, if I wake up in the morning, I don't know if I'm going to be alive long enough to see night. See that? Umar understood the value of time, and he understood how frail, how fragile life is. Maybe. Who was standing next to Umar? Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu. You want to find Umar? Look for Abu Bakr. You want to find Abu Bakr? Look for Umar, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Abu Bakr, he said, Ya Abu Bakr, tell me something about life. Listen to Abu Bakr, the wisdom. Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of God, if I inhale, I don't know if I'm going to be alive long enough to exhale. Id'u ila Allah, yaghfir lakum dhunubakum, supplicate to Allah to forgive your sins. My dear sisters and brothers, I want to share with you a poem that I found. I did not write this poem. I'm not that creative. I wish I did. But it's something that's very relevant, and I'll go through it quickly because we're almost out of time. It brings together everything that I have just said. And the poem is called Eternal Ink. Eternal Ink. I dreamt I was in heaven where an angel kept my book. He was writing so intently, I just had to take a look. It was not at first his writing that made me stop and think, but the fluid in the bottle that was marked Eternal Ink. This ink was most amazing, dark black upon his blotter, but as it touched the parchment, it became clear as water. The angel kept on writing, but as quickly as a wink, the words were disappearing with that strange eternal ink. The angel took no notice, but kept writing on and on. He turned each page and filled it till all its space was gone. I thought he wrote to no avail, his efforts seemed so in vain, for he wrote 1,000 pages that he'd never read again. And as I watched and wondered that this awesome sight was mine, I actually saw a word stay black as it dried upon the line. The angel wrote, and I thought I saw a look of satisfaction. At last he had some print to show for all his earnest action. A line or two dried dark and stayed as black can be, but strangely the next paragraph became invisible to see. The book was getting full, the angel's records true, but most of it was blank, with just a few words coming through. I knew there was some reason, but as hard as I could think, I couldn't grasp the significance of that eternal ink. The mystery burned within me, and I finally dared to ask the angel to explain to me of his amazing task. And what I heard was frightful as the angel turned his head. He looked directly at me, and this is what he said. I know you stand and wonder at what my writing's worth, but Allah Almighty has told me to record the lives of those on earth. The book that I am filling is an accurate account of every word and action and to what they do amount. And since you have been watching, I must tell you what is true. The details of my journal are a strict account of you. The Almighty asked me to watch you as each day you worked and played. I saw you as you went to masjid. I saw you as you prayed. But I was told to document your life throughout all the week. I wrote when you were proud and bold. I wrote when you were meek. I recorded all your attitudes, whether they were good or bad. I was sorry that I had to write the things that are so sad. So now I'll tell the wonder of this eternal ink, for the reason for its mystery should make you stop and think. This special ink helps me keep my journal, will only keep a record of things that are eternal. So much of life is wasted on things that matter not. So instead of my erasing, smudging ink and ugly blot, I just keep writing faithfully and let the ink do all the rest. For it is able to decide what is useless and what is best. And the Almighty ordained that as I wrote of all you do and say, your deeds that account to nothing will just disappear away. When books are opened someday, as sure as heaven is true, Allah's eternal ink will tell what mattered most to you. If you just live to please yourself, the pages will be bare. And Almighty Allah will issue no reward for you when you get there. In fact, you'll be embarrassed. You will hang your head in shame because you did not give yourself in love and charity to Allah's name. Yet maybe there will be a few recorded lines that stayed, that showed the times you truly cared, sincerely loved, and prayed. But you will always wonder as you enter Jannah's door how much more glad you would have been if only you'd done more. For I record as Allah sees, I don't even stop to think, because the truth is written with God's eternal ink. Oh, when I heard the angel's story, I fell down and wept and cried, for as yet I was still dreaming. I hadn't really died. And I said, oh angel, tell Allah that as soon as I awake, I'll give my life for him. I'll do all for his dear sake. I'll give in full surrender. I'll do all he wants me to. I'll turn my back on self and sin and whatever isn't true. And though the way seems long and rough, I promise to endure. I'm determined to pursue the things that are holy, clean, and pure. With Allah as my guide, I will win lost souls to thee, for I know that they will live with God for all eternity. And that's what really matters when my life on earth is gone, that I will stand before Allah and hear him say, well done. For is it really worth it as my life stands at the brink and I realize that God keeps books with his eternal ink? Should all my life be focused on things that turn to dust? From this point on, I'll serve Allah. I can, I will, I must. I will not send blank pages up to Allah's majestic throne. For where the record's going now is my eternal home. I'm giving all to God. I now have seen the link. For I saw an angel write my life with Allah's eternal ink. Time. Time is valuable. We don't have much of it. And time is valuable because time is a currency that you must spend in order to do good deeds. If you don't have the time to do good deeds, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your intention is. It doesn't matter if you have the health, if you have the money, or if you don't use the time, it's going to be wasted. Now, I say this, I've mentioned many times, I don't want you to overcompensate. Don't overcompensate. I want us to live a balanced life. Don't live purely for this world, live for the afterlife, but don't overcompensate. Let me tell you what I mean. There was a hadith. 3 people went to the houses of the Prophet, and they spoke to the wives because the Prophet ﷺ was not there. And when they asked about the Prophet's worship and what he used to do, they were surprised. They were surprised. They didn't think that the Prophet ﷺ was doing enough. Let me repeat that. They didn't think he was doing enough. So one of them said, who are we in comparison to the Prophet? Allah has forgiven his past and future sins. One of them said, as for me, I will pray all night forever. Another said, I shall fast all my life and never break my fast. I don't know how you can do that for more than a few days, but that's what he said. Another said, I shall keep away from women and never get married. Later on, the messenger arrived and he beckoned them. He said, are you the 3 people that were asking about me earlier? And they said, yes. He said, come here, come here. He said, by Allah, I am the one who fears Allah the most among you, and I am the most pious. But I fast and I break my fast. I pray and I sleep and I am married. Whosoever turns away from my sunnah is not among me. Don't overcompensate, is what I'm trying to say. Our deen, this religion, is one of the middle ground. It's one of moderation, right? It's one of moderation. For these worldly types of things, moderation is the best way to go. Other things and spiritual things, the more the better. The kinder you are, the better. The more generous you are, the better. The more patient you are, the better, right? Go as far as you want with those types of attributes. But in terms of matters of this world, moderation. Rasulullah ﷺ was very moderate. He did not go to extremes in those types of things. So do not overcompensate. Let's not be too preoccupied with this world, but at the same time, let's not overcompensate. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك السميع مجيب الدعوات. Almighty God, forgive the Muslim men and women. Forgive, say Ameen. Forgive the devout men and women, those who are alive and those who have passed. You are indeed the one who listens and accepts all supplications. Servants of Allah, indeed Allah orders us to be just and to excel in what we do. Be generous and take care of your kin and relatives. Never do what is forbidden of all sins and do not transgress. He Almighty advises you so that you can remember. Wa aqim as-salah.